Welcome to the Boxing Source Midweek Report, where we tackle the latest topics in the sport of boxing here up to this point every single Wednesday. Time to start the show.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Here we are. That's right. We are here for the Midweek Report, May 21st, 2025. We got a number of things here that we're going to be talking about. We got, I'd say about around six topics here so far in this particular Midweek Report that we're going to be going through here. And it's something because, we basically got the big news, of course, finally getting the news here, you know what I'm saying? And that we're going to be talking about that. That's pretty much like our headliner, so to speak, right? We got that as a headliner for our topics, right? And we're also going to, tackle a few other things here from the week in boxing. So we're going to get into that here as well. We got a number of fights that are coming up here for this weekend. So, it's not necessarily a down weekend for the sport of boxing. We got some world title fights. Okay. We got world title fights that are scheduled here, for this weekend. And, this is the thing about it is that, even with the world title fights that are coming up, people are kind of like sleeping on it. But given that it's going to be shown on ProBox, yep, that's right, it's going to be shown on ProBox. That means, you're here in the States, you have the opportunity to watch those particular fights. So it's not just something that's going on over in the UK that's scheduled, but over in Japan with should be at least two world title fights here. So we're going to be talking about that here as well. But with that being said, I want to get right into it, right? So here we go with topic number one. Of course, here we go. Manuel John Pacquiao announced that he will be fighting Mario Barrios on July 19th, and it will be in Las Vegas. Does he have a shot to win? Well, we got this thing here, of course, Manny Pacquiao, he posted a video on his Instagram page the other day. And, with that particular video, when I saw that video, I was like, well, all right, it's basically a foregone conclusion. It's already, locked in, locked down, all that type of stuff, so that is what we have, right? And now it's going to be Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios for the WBC welterweight title. Yep, that's right. Manny Pacquiao, years removed from his bout against Yordenis Ugas, where he lost by decision, ended up retiring there at the time, or so be it, right? And has had, some exhibition fights here and there. But the thing that had me was that there was a little bit of a stir of this fight potentially happening from last year. You had the thing with Mario Barrios, who, had been elevated to WBC full champion, as was a WBC interim champ. But when he was full champ, there was talk about him potentially having a unification bout with Jaron Boots Ennis, but he ended up fighting Abel Ramos on that Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson card, where he got paid around in excess of $3 million for that particular fight, which was going to be more than what was offered, so to speak, or reported for him fighting Jaron Ennis there in the unification bout. So with him having that fight against Abel Ramos ended up being a draw. That kind of, I think it kind of increased interest for this to happen in one sense. So that meant that what we had as far as like a potential rumor actually came to fruition. We talked about this on the website. If you check out the rumor mill, it's like back in the archives, we said that it would be a potential fight, but at that time, it didn't necessarily come to fruition. And, Manny Pacquiao had an exhibition fight and, pretty much like outboxed and all that type of stuff there in the exhibition fight. But, even with that, he still had it open for Manny Pacquiao to return. And it's crazy because Manny Pacquiao is part of the 2025 class of the International Boxing Hall of Fame. So that means on June 8th at Verona, New York, he will be inducted in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. And then the next month, he's going to be fighting Mario Barrios for the WBC Welterweight Championship. You know what I mean? Shout out to Adam. Yeah, he says Oliver McCall has a fight in June at the age of 60. I don't mind guys fighting under the age of 50 at all, but fighting at 50 or older, yeah. Hey, man, yeah, we got Shannon the Cannon Briggs. He's supposed to be fighting in, I think it's like over in Kentucky or something like that. But yeah, Oliver McCall had a fight already. What was it, last year? He had a fight already. So yeah, he's gonna be fighting again. But now you got Manny Pacquiao here, 46 years old, going for the WBC welterweight title with Mario Barrios. It will be Barrios' second defense of that title. I felt like, he had his good performances against, Yordenis Ugas, and you also had the fight with, Fabian Maidana, right? And those were, pretty good. That was pretty good performances. And then, we've seen what happened there against Abel Ramos, where, he was having a pretty good fight. Up until he got knocked down. And then for like the rest of that particular fight, he was still, trying to, kind of deal with, that knockdown that happened in the 6th round. And, some people may have felt that, hey, maybe he fell short in that bout, but ended up being a split draw. So now here he is going up against Emmanuel Dapidran Pacquiao, a fighter that has 62 wins, 8 losses, and 2 draws, with 39 of those 62 wins by way of knockout. Listen, I don't know if it's going to be something where it's a performance by Manny Pacquiao like he had against Keith Thurman, because a lot of people thought that Keith Thurman was going to, just school him or whatever it is, or just, pretty much like out hustle him or whatever it was, right? But didn't necessarily happen. Manny Pacquiao ended up getting that win, But you compare that to Pacquiao's performance against Yordenis Ugas, that was 2 years afterwards. And yeah, he just didn't look all too good, particularly in the last few rounds. And then we all saw, the whole picture of him, days after the fight, getting treatment there, or whatever, getting served food by his wife. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? But with that being said, now you have him. It's going to be 4 years after that bout took place, and he's going to be fighting for the WBC welterweight title. The WBC had pretty much hinted at it, a couple months ago, whatever it is. You had the WBC president there, Mauricio Suleiman, talking about it. And then, a week and a half ago, the WBC placed Manny Pacquiao at number 5 in the WBC rankings, And so with that being said, that kind of like gave it all, but, gave it all away. You know what I mean? So with that, now we're going to see, okay, is this going to be like a big event there July 19th? Looking like it's going to be there in Las Vegas, as I say, Las Vegas, Nevada. So it's going to be, I feel it's going to be an interesting event, because that's not going to be the only feature bout on there. But before we get into that, I still wanted to go more into this particular matchup, because I was going to see about sharing this here with the rankings here real quick. Let me see here. Let me see if I could go ahead and do that. I am going to share these boxing rankings here real quick. So it'll show the WBC rankings right there, right? You got Mario Barrios there as the champion. You got Manny Pacquiao there at number 5. Look at who is at number 1. So you got Devin Miles Haney at number 1. Of course, he is the former WBC super lightweight champion, former undisputed lightweight. Former undisputed lightweight champion, WBC super lightweight champion. So that is how Devin Haney is ranked at number 1 in the WBC. Now, what's going to be interesting is if the WBC makes a push, or if Devin Haney and his team makes a push for him to be the mandatory challenger. I mean, we're here about a couple months away from this bout between Barrios and Manny Pacquiao. So if Devin Haney makes that push to be the mandatory challenger, that would kind of like be interesting right there. Let me see here. Adam asked, "What? No, he heard a thing, but heard Manny could be making $30 million for this fight." I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if he does. Wouldn't be surprised if he does. You know, because this is something where a lot of people are interested in it. Once they made it official, man, I don't even know if I checked the joints here for the page for Manny Pacquiao, right? And I'll see if anything has kind of like increased with it. You know what I mean? Because once he posted that initial video of him, being in the gym and all that, I thought that kind of like boosted some interest or whatever it was. Now he got 8.2 million followers on Instagram. 8.2 million followers on Instagram, right? When he posted that initial video, it has over 10,000 likes. And the announcement for this fight, MGM Grand Garden Arena, is at over 103,000 likes. That should tell you something right there. That should tell you something. All right. So with that being said, we are going to have a very, very packed atmosphere there at MGM Grand. Okay. That's usually, where the main action be at for fight week when you have fights over at either MGM Grand Garden Arena or at T-Mobile Arena, because they kind of like associated with each other. The exception of maybe having something at Mandalay Bay, then yeah. But here in this case, it's gonna be a crazy scene there for summertime in Las Vegas, July 19th. You're gonna see Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios, right? And I looked at the whole thing there with the pro boxing odds. Going pro boxing odds right now, and it has Mario Barrios for DraftKings at minus 425 right now, with Manny Pacquiao at plus 300. So 3-1 underdog for Manny Pacquiao and 4-1, pretty much like a 4-1 favorite for Mario Barrios. If you go on FanDuel, they got Mario Barrios at over 7.5 to 1 favorite. And Manny Pacquiao at like 4.5 to 1 underdog. So, I mean, that's going to be something. I want to see like how people are going to put in their early money for this particular bout and see how much they're going to put towards a Manny Pacquiao. If they believe in Manny Pacquiao that much to where the odds will kind of shift closer to 50-50. That'll be something. You know what I mean? That'll be something that happens. You feel me? So that's the thing there in reference to this one. A lot of people feel like it's like a big event and all that type of stuff. That it's going to be on and popping. And I just got some news here. I just got some news. That I might get into here in a little bit. You feel me? Shout out to Jordan Smith here in the live chat here on the Boxing Source Midweek Report. But yeah, with this thing here, July 19th over in Las Vegas, they said MGM Grand Garden Arena. You know what I mean? I like the atmosphere of MGM Grand Garden Arena. I don't think there's a bad seat in the house in that particular venue. So, regardless if you're like at a ringside seat or, you're pretty much close to the back, close to the nosebleeds, you should have like a good view of the ring. there at MGM Grand Garden Arena. So it's gonna make for something a good little event, right? So definitely looking forward to it. That is the main event. Like I said, Mario Barrios, the WBC welterweight champion, and Emmanuel Dapijan Pacquiao. So that is gonna be something there. Now, also here we go with the next thing. It has been rumored that the rematch between Sebastian Fundora and Tim Tszyu will be on that card. Who has the advantage? Well, I mean, it's been rumored because I talked with the source about it, and they said, hey, it's all but on there, and they said that hey, they're looking forward to having this fight on July 19th with alongside the great Manny Pacquiao. That's pretty much kind of like the words of a source of sorts. Okay, that they're looking forward to it. Okay. Now it was of course the whole thing with Sebastian Fundora and Tim Tszyu, stemmed from Fundora having a WBO mandatory and Xander Zayas, who was in attendance for Sebastian Fundora's last fight against Cordell Booker. What was that? Michelob Ultra Arena in Mandalay Bay, right? And it all but looked like they were going to go see it and have something done, for a fight. The deadline got a little closer. Then it got even closer. Then it got to the week of when the purse bid was supposed to happen. And then a couple days before the purse bid was supposed to go down, we get an announcement that Sebastian Fundora said, you know what? I'm good with that WBO belt. And when he said he's good with that WBO belt, that hey, okay, he's going to be going up against Tim Tszyu in a rematch. Well, I mean, hey, as I said, either Xander Zayas or Tim Tszyu rematch. Which one is more lucrative? Tim Tszyu rematch. Very obvious. So that being said, we got this thing here for the WBC Super Welterweight Championship. And we all saw what happened last year. A bloodbath, an absolute bloodbath. Some people felt like Sebastian Fundora hit Tim Tszyu with the people's elbow. Okay, I mean, it is what it is. But, still happened. And they still went through those full 12 rounds. And I don't understand how, I don't even think there was one instance where the fight got paused or anything like that to check on either fighter to see how extreme the blood loss was from, particularly with Tim Tszyu, with his head, and with Sebastian Fundora with his nose and stuff like that. I didn't understand it, but still made for a really compelling fight because you never knew if the fight would get stopped on either side, right? And still ended up being a split decision in favor of Sebastian Fundora. It took a whole year for him to get himself back in the ring. While on the flip, with Tim Tszyu, he gets in there with Backroom last year over in Orlando. My goodness gracious, man. He got beat up. He got beat up, man. He got beat up. Feel me? And then after that, he wanted to try to, collect himself and, had his fight over in Australia, you know what I mean, with Spencer. And we all thought, hey, maybe we could have had Tim Tszyu and Keith Thurman. But with this fight, he gets another opportunity to become a world champion. He was a WBO champion, as he got it from Jermell Charlo, with Jermell Charlo fighting Canelo Alvarez up at super middleweight, right? But outside of that, we got to see here with Tim Tszyu. I want to see what's going to be up with Tim Tszyu in this fight against Sebastian Fundora, because I feel like Fundora has really improved as a fighter, over the past year or so. I think that fight that he had against Tim Tszyu really was the one, because he actually used his height and his reach, throwing a jab, consistently throwing a jab, keeping his distance away from Tim Tszyu, moving away when he could in order to, make sure that he didn't get further damaged by Tim Tszyu in that fight. Because in those first 2 rounds, Tim Tszyu, just to be honest, I didn't think it was looking all too good for Sebastian Fundora after those first 2 rounds. But once that cut happened on Tim Tszyu, that completely changed the fight right there. You know, but now seeing what Fundora did against Cordell Booker and just pretty much sticking with that plan as far as like, hey, yo, I'm gonna keep that jab. I'm gonna keep that jab in front of my opponent, and I'm gonna work from that. You know, I'm gonna work from that. And if I get something where I could get in closer range and then go to town with my power shots, then I'm gonna do that. But at least here with Fundora, I feel like he's kind of improved a little bit with his offense. You feel me? You know, what's going on, legacy remains. Everything else fades. You feel me? It's a salute to you, man. Salute to you. But you know, back with this fight, I feel like it's gonna be a very good co-feature bout. You know what I mean? You know, when I can, I'll kind of go through what could be included on the card. If I'm not mistaken, they might end up having Isaac Pitbull Cruz and Angel Fierro rematch on that. If they do, that's gonna make for a pay-per-view. Now, I also heard that they might have the Heartbreaker Brandon Figueroa on there. It might, okay? Not the Heartbreak Kid, okay? It's the Heartbreaker, all right? We all know who the Heartbreak Kid is, all right? So that could be the 4 fights on that card, the pay-per-view portion of the card for July 19th. There, you know, we kind of like discussed it a little bit here last week on the Midweek Report with Matt Brown of Brunch Boxing. But now, since we have this official announcement from Manny Pacquiao that he's fighting Mario Barrios there on July 19th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, now we could get a little bit closer to seeing what will be official, you know, on the thing there for the fight card. You know, I'm waiting for the email, you know, for that, you know, whole full announcement of, you know, this particular main event, and then if they're gonna add the whole thing with the co-feature on it too. So once that happens, you know, we might have an article posted on the boxingsource.net in reference to that. But you know, here, like I said, I mean that's that whole thing with Manny Pacquiao and Mario Barrios was like the worst kept secret after after about what February. That was like one of the worst kept secrets in boxing, man. Like, come on, y'all. It was like everybody pretty much knew. It was just a matter of Manny Pacquiao first going through the whole thing with what was it, the senatorial races over in the Philippines. You know, he, you know, fell short. You know, he didn't make it. He didn't make it. So that kind of like made him, you know, full-fledged, you know, ready to say, okay, you know what? Since I don't have to, you know, devote my time in the Philippines to, you know, serve as a senator this time around, then yeah, I'll go ahead and have this fight. You know, Mario Barrios, you know what, I ain't gonna do it. I have to practice that when it comes to Manny Pacquiao. Okay, I tried it yesterday on the Real Boxing with Coach Roddy Shields, and you know, it didn't quite work all too well. But you know, I'll see if I can work on that a little bit later once the fight gets closer. So maybe I'll have a Manny Pacquiao a Manny Pacquiao impersonation for y'all or something. I don't know. But yeah, that makes for a solid card for me. You know, if we're gonna have, like I said, Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios, Sebastian Fundora versus Tim Tszyu in a rematch, Isaac Cruz versus Angel Fierro in a rematch. And I'm telling you, that fight there, February 1st, man, that was, man, and watching it there live, man, that was just awesome stuff, absolutely awesome stuff. So they put this here in a rematch. My goodness, boy, that's gonna be something. And you know, if they do have Brandon Figueroa on there, that's it. I want to know who would they match up Figueroa with. I don't think it's gonna be I don't think it's gonna be like a high level opponent of sorts, but we'll see. We'll see on that. But at July 19 card, I think that's going to be pretty solid there. Real quick there, just big ups for everyone listening live on the Midweek Report. You know, if you support, you know, hit the like button, hit the share button, you know, subscribe. You know, I'm trying to get close to like 3,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. And also the partly sponsor the show, you know, you got the Cash App, you know what I'm saying? You know, you got the Cash App there, you know, down at the bottom right now. So you do have that, right? So there's that. All right. here we go with number 3 here on this topic joint. All right. Will Keyshawn Davis make another step towards making a claim of being a top lightweight on June 6th? Yeah, we're a couple of weeks away from that. I mean, you got, this weekend, Memorial Weekend. Then you got next weekend here where, we got a doubleheader that's going to be in Las Vegas. We're going to be talking about that here in a bit. And then over at Scope Arena in Norfolk, Virginia, you're going to have Keyshawn Davis making his first defense of the WBO lightweight title against Edwin De Los Santos. Yes, Edwin De Los Santos has been out of the ring since November 2023 with his loss to Ashakur Nafis Shahid Stevenson. Yes, that's right. I'll say the whole name right. And everybody knows about that performance. If y'all have been following the Boxing Source for a good little while, after that particular event, from that point for almost a whole year, I did have a little bit of a movement to not have Edwin De Los Santos be on my screen, because it wasn't just that fight. It was that Joseph Adorno fight before that over in Atlantic City that I was at. I'm like, I went through 24 rounds of Edwin De Los Santos. And I'm like, nah, I was good. But now they got him back on here. Yes, he did have an issue with blood clots in his leg, but they have him, back in the mix, back in the ring here against Keyshawn Davis. And, Keyshawn has been skyrocketing up the lightweight rankings ever since last year. He had, 3 fights last year, culminating in his win over Gustavo Lemos in Scope Arena in his hometown there. And, before that, what was it? Miguel Madueño, over in Newark. And then, he had another one. And, he pretty much showed up and showed out. You feel me? So there it is. So now you got Keyshawn Davis here, and he's been on a roll. And you see what he's been doing over in Las Vegas. He's been having camp in Las Vegas, with his brothers. Also, you have Troy Isley out there. You have Avius Griffin, part of the team there, B&B and all of that. So shout out to Avius Griffin, recent signee of Most Valuable Promotions. So, and, some of y'all have seen the picture of, listen, I see talent, when I know talent. You know me, I'm TBE, and I know talent. And I see Keyshawn, and I know that he's a hell of a fighter. And I see him in the ring. I see him do his work. And what's going to happen on June 6th? It's going to be easy work. You know what I mean? So shout out to Sean Terrence in the building, man. He says, De Los Santos versus Keyshawn, who you got? Do you think it's better than the Norman versus Sasaki fight? Okay. First question. Keyshawn Davis. And I said it on, shout out to my guy, Mr. GHB, Greg Hackett. Said on one of his lives, I said, don't be surprised if Keyshawn gets this thing within 4 rounds. Don't be surprised. I'm telling you, Keyshawn has been working, and I mean working over the past 12 to 15 months to really show that he can be one of those, as we're mentioning here, one of those top lightweights. Okay. I know he's been talking about, potentially getting a fight with Tank Davis. He talked about it after his fight against Gustavo Lemos. He pretty much hinted at it before his fight against Dennis Berencic. But I think that he's going to be here to, have another opportunity to show up and show out in his hometown. And this one is going to be another one, another instance where he could do that. Yep, that's the thing too. He does have to watch out for the power there of Edwin De Los Santos. Still, is out there is very dangerous. The thing about it is with De Los Santos, right? I am still kind of iffy with them after his performances against Joseph Adorno and Shakur Stevenson. He did, have that quick knockout win over Raul Valenzuela in 2022. That kind of catapulted him up. You know what I mean? But that Adorno fight, or went like 10 rounds there for that, and then the full 12 there against Shakur Stevenson. I don't know. I really have to see like what his condition is after having that whole issue with the blood clot in his legs. So we got to see if he has the movement, he has a proper movement to move in and out of the pocket here against Keyshawn Davis. He's there at 5'8" with a reach of 70. So it's pretty much like similar height, similar reach there with Keyshawn Davis. But will it be similar speed from hand speed and foot speed? That's the thing about it. I gotta figure out if that's going to be the case there for Edwin De Los Santos. So that's what I'm looking at ahead of this bout coming up June 6th, right? And that fight card is going to be really good. We got that as the main event. You're going to have Abdullah Mason versus Jeremiah Nakathila, which is going to be a very key bout there, also in the lightweight division. We all saw Abdullah Mason there at Scope Arena last year, against Johan Gonzalez, right? And he got knocked down twice in the first round, but then in the second round, he went to work, hit dude with a body shot, and it was a wrap. But that first round was like the craziest first round of the year, for me. And I pretty much had it as the Boxosaurus 2024 round of the year. So looking forward to seeing Abdullah Mason here. Once again, that is going to be his third fight this year. He fought in February. He fought, late March, or what was it, April, right? And now he's back in the mix here, June 6th. And according to the matchmaker there, Hall of Fame matchmaker, Brad Goodman, he still have him plan to fight 2 more times this year. 2 more times this year for Abdullah Mason. And they're kind of bringing him in a path to potentially fight for a world title in 2026. Potentially. We shall see. So you got that up there. That's going to be part of the card. You're also going to have Troy Isley in the mix. Should be there up against Atundi William in the middleweight division. You're going to have Kelvin Davis going up against Nahir Albright. Yep, that's right. Same Nahir Albright that Keyshawn Davis faced, a few years ago, or a couple years ago, basically, and that one, I think they're going to have him up at the super lightweight division or something like that for that fight. But that's going to be a good matchup, very interesting matchup there, as that's, the next fight that, what is it? The next fight actually is going to be 2 straight fights there for Nahir Albright. The one against Keyshawn, that was back in October of 2023, and he hasn't been in the ring since. Now he's going up against Kelvin Davis there at the Scope Arena. And then you're also going to have Keon Davis there, of course, the youngest of DB3, going up against Michael Velez Garcia. And you're going to have Derek Scooter Davis going up against Naheem Parker. So that's 6 fights, at least 6 fights that are on the card. I got to, get the full fight card there so that y'all be ready for it once they have that full announcement. Because, of course, you're going to have fights that are going to be on ESPN and ESPN Plus there for June 6th. And just definitely looking forward to seeing how they're going to work out those matchups there. I know I had like a couple of updates there from Top Rank as far as recent signees and things like that. Like Yuri Cedeno. I think that was like one of the fighters that will be on the card. So, because I recently posted something about that in reference to Top Rank signing a co-promotional deal with Yuri Cedeno, right? So you're gonna have him being part of Top Rank, and yeah, he's gonna be on the June 7th card in Norfolk against Abel Mina in a 10-round bout. It's scheduled for 10 rounds. So that's another fight that's on the June 6th card right there. So there you go. So we're gonna have a really interesting fight card there, and I'm looking forward to it. Get down there over in Norfolk for that whole thing. So that's gonna be good. All right. So now here we go with the next topic here, and this is another one of the major topics that we have. Is Tim Bradley trolling us, or does he really believe that Teo can beat Boots? Well, I don't know, man. Shout out to, as I mentioned before, shout out to Greg Hackett, Mr. GHB. He did mention that he feels like Tim Bradley is potentially trolling or potentially, throwing out the proverbial fishing line to garner interest for this particular bout. And I mean, that's not bad. I mean, you see the play. Shout out to GHB, but he probably sees the play because the thing with Teofimo is like he's there at 140 pounds. He's a lineal champion. Yes, he is the WBO champion there at 140 pounds. But what outside of his fight against Josh Taylor, what has he done at 140 pounds to kind of like solidify himself as the top guy? Yes, he did have his last fight here a couple of weeks ago. Okay. Arnold Barboza Jr. outboxed Arnold Barboza Jr., and coasted to a decision win. Okay. He did talk about, Dora the Explorer, I'm looking for booze, all that stuff. He has all the comments that he's had in reference to, Keyshawn Davis, Tank Davis, and Terrence Crawford. We talked about it with the WBO president, Gustavo Olivieri, last week. But for me, there should be no reason for this fight to take place. No reason for it to take place. None. No reason whatsoever for the fight to take place between Teofimo Lopez and Jaron Boots Ennis. There's a number of fights at the 147-pound division for Boots Ennis. There are a number of fights out there at the 140-pound division for Teofimo Lopez, including Devin Miles Haney. And Bill Haney, yes, has said a lot in reference to potentially having Devin Haney fighting Teofimo Lopez. Now, given what I have, I guess I've been hit up with, this fight, no. After what I would say after a couple of days, don't think about it, don't talk about it, don't bring it up, don't say anything in reference to it. No, not going to happen unless if it's an absolute, complete, total, and just crazy miracle. Okay? Because got some news on one side that 147 it's over. It's over. It's done. It's over. He tried hard. He had, his intentions to, try to go for a goal at 147 pounds. But given that we have what's going to happen, what is it, next month over in Japan, and the announcement that we just had made for July 19th, he's good. He's not going to wait any longer. So, yeah, that means don't be surprised if you see Jaron Boots Ennis campaigning at 154 pounds. Say it again. Don't be surprised if you see Jaron Boots Ennis campaigning at 154 pounds. So, the whole thing in reference to him and his mandatory there, Shakram Gyasol, you might not even see that. Like, it's almost like, what's the point? You're going to honor your mandatory for the WBA when after that you would still have to wait a good amount more months for any unification fight to happen. No, unless if you completely know for a fact that any of those champions are going to be available and properly negotiate with you to have a unification, there's no point. And The whole thing with the WBO champion, that kind of sailed. That ship had sailed, not just from last year, but from recently. So, yeah, we did have, of course, Brian Norman's manager on the Boxing Source podcast some time back, but I'll tell you this right now, I mean, that it looks like that was their shot. That was their shot. That was the opportunity. And it is what it is. Just like, what is it? Like Juski, right? So there you go. So that's the thing. Just giving it to y'all, as straightforward as I possibly can. Had the news in reference to Boots. There's only, one, at least for me, there's only one source that you pretty much go to for that. Y'all should know who it is. Y'all know who I deal with. So there you go. If there's anything you want to ask about it, you know where to go in reference to that. Just put it that way. Now, that being said, just going to move forward here because, this midweek report, we're going to try to go through this real quick. All right. Here we go. Do you think that Armando Resendiz and Thomas Lamana are stepping in the ring to make Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo look good? Now, this one stems from this one stems from a recent article that was posted, okay, on Brunch Boxing. Oh man, because that one, oh boy, he kind of went there with this one. Shout out to Matt Brown, Brunch Boxing. He's doing the work there in reference to the the spaces and doing the interviews and all that stuff, right? But this one was interesting to me. Okay, I want to see if I could go ahead and share this thing here with this particular article because the way that this was titled, it was something there, right? And he posted it. It says, "The Jobbers," starring Armando Resendiz and Cornflake Lamana. Oh my gosh, man! I can't believe it. I can't believe he did that. Just. And when you put it like that, it's like the disrespect, man. Shout out to my guy Thomas Hill in the building. Hey, listen, I'm just trying to bring the news and the stories to the people here so they could get a better understanding of the sport and the business of boxing. That's what I try to do here. So that's that. But yeah, Matt Brown says The Jobbers, starring Armando Resendiz and Cornflake Lamana. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my goodness. Now, the thing about it is, with these bouts coming up on May 31st, Jamal Charlo is a 12-1 favorite, or as high as a 14-1 favorite on the sports books. Caleb Plant is a 20-1 favorite on the books against Jose Armando Resendiz. I mean, Resendiz is pretty much campaigning at the 154, 160 pound division, basically, before having this upcoming bout against Caleb Plant, who is the interim champion there, the IBF interim champ or something, you know what I mean? IBF and WBA interim champ. So, and a lot of us know about, the potential fight that could happen between Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo. And I think, that was kind of worked on behind the scenes as something there where they said, hey, we'll have both of y'all here in this particular fight. Then Caleb Plant was most likely ready, as it is. But with Jamal Charlo, of course, having the extended layoffs that he's had, that he wouldn't necessarily be ready. So they say, you know what? We'll go ahead and match y'all up. We'll find y'all some opponents. And if y'all could get through that and have a good enough show, then we'll match y'all up here later on down the line. Now I've said that it could be set up for maybe November, but they got to take care of business first. Like Caleb Plant said, he's like, listen, he's seen the whole, some instances where everybody thought that we could have bout coming up later on down the line, and then you see like a fighter, end up losing. I mean, you just seen a recent example there with Ryan Garcia losing to Rolly Romero. We all thought it was going to be Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia in a rematch. Devin Haney does what he is supposed to do, but Ryan Garcia, I guess he didn't do what he was supposed to do. He was the favorite, but he didn't do what he was supposed to do. So you ended up seeing Rolly Romero as the WBA regular welterweight champion. Yep, that's right. The WBA regular welterweight champion, Rolando Rolly Romero. So with that being said, you can pretty much nix the fight between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia happening. Now here we are, fast forward, May 31st coming up here. You're going to have this bout with Caleb Plant and Armando Resendiz. Stylistically, it should be all Caleb Plant, but, like you said, anything can happen in boxing. You got Jamal Charlo against Cornflake Romana. Yeah, that's right, I said Cornflake. And, it's more about, for me, I'm more interested in Jamal Charlo and how he does with Highland Williams Sr. as his trainer. As we know, he used to be Coach Ronnie Shields in the corner there for Jamal Charlo. Now that's not the case. Okay. So you're pretty much going to have Jamal Charlo now. I think he's kind of like working out in his own gym there, just strictly at his own gym with Highland Williams Sr. So I want to see how he kind of looks here against Thomas Lamana. I want to see him like work on a few things here and all that type of stuff. But, I guess to this particular theme there, is he going to look good against Thomas Lamana? Remains to be seen. Lamana has like went into this like saying, listen, y'all just overlooking me. Y'all just think I don't have any chance of winning here against Jamal Charlo. Y'all got something. I don't know what y'all talking about. This is basically what he said. Particularly in the conference call. If y'all haven't listened to the conference call, you got it. You got to listen to the conference call. Like the press conference was one thing, but the conference call that was earlier, man, that was on some whole different stuff right there. So that kind of like makes me, really interested in what's going to be happening in these bouts coming up on May 31st here. So, I definitely want to see what both Caleb Plant does here against Armando Resendiz and also with Jamal Charlo, former 154 and 160 pound champion. Let's see what he does here in these upcoming bouts. That's going to be something there. Like I said, that is what on Amazon Prime. That's not Amazon Prime pay-per-view. No. It's going to be on Amazon Prime Video. So definitely looking forward to that. And seeing those two guys in action. All right. So that's what we have on that particular topic right there. And then here for this one, last, like I said, what should we look for this weekend in boxing? As I was mentioning there at the beginning of the show, what we have on the schedule is Angelo Leo versus Tomoki Kameda, right? And that one will be on ProBox TV. It was like recently announced that they're going to post it on ProBox TV. That is going to be for the IBF Featherweight Championship. That is Angelo Leo's first defense of that featherweight title that he won with his knockout win over Luis Alberto Lopez or Bernardo Lopez, right? That is going to be a pretty good bout there as Angelo Leo is coming in with a record of 25 wins with just one loss there to, Stephen Fulton, right? Going up against Tomoki Kameda, who has a record of 42 wins and 4 losses. That is 23 wins by way of knockout. His nickname is El Mexicanito. Yeah, I don't know where they got that. I don't know where they got that from, man. But he has, had a huge majority of his fights in Japan. Last bout being against Lorado Domini, we won by split decision in August of last year. So Leo, I don't know, man. Leo should be a pretty sizable favorite, I would say. So I'm going to see here. Yeah, he's at minus 700 on FanDuel, and Tomoki Kameda is at plus 440. So you'll be able to catch that particular fight on ProBox TV on May 24th. And also you're going to see former undisputed champion at 140 pounds, Josh Taylor, going up against Eko Asamoah. They're in Glasgow, Scotland. That should be on the zone. So we're going to see that on the zone. I think they got Taylor campaigning at 147 pounds now. He should have been already there. He should have been there a while ago. You know, I don't think, like, once he had the fight, the first fight against Jack Catterall, that's when he should have just said, you know what, let me just go ahead and go up to 147. Because remember, once he became the undisputed champion there at 140 pounds, they were suggesting that maybe, just maybe at the time, he could go up and potentially face Terrence Crawford. But of course, Terrence Crawford was, looking for being an undisputed champion at welterweight. So after that, yeah, that ship is sailed. So then he had to fight against Teofimo Lopez, lost by decision on that. Then had the rematch against Jack Catterall, lost by decision on that. And now here he is in his first bout at 147 pounds. It's gonna be for an international welterweight title there with the WBO. So he will be climbing up the rankings in the WBO with a win over Eko Asamoah in that one. So that is, two of the major bouts coming up this weekend for y'all to catch here. And then, like I said, for next week, May 31st, you're going to have the whole thing with the Amazon Prime Video fights with Caleb Plant against Armando Resendiz and Jamal Charlo against Thomas Lamana, right? So there you go. Now, that being said, that's mainly what I got here from the Midweek Report. Big thanks for everyone being able to join in live. If you can, hit the like button, share the stream. We're gonna have more here for y'all on the Boxing Source YouTube channel. We got of course the Boxing Source podcast that's on Sundays. We have Real Boxing with Coach Rodney Shields on Tuesdays. We're gonna try to go with the DMV Boxing Network show hopefully next Friday. Okay, we may do it for next Friday because this Friday I'm seeing if I could go to an event with that'll involve Franchon Cruz Dezern. So I may talk with Franchon Cruz Dezern on this Friday night, and then next Friday we'll have another edition of the DMV Boxing Network show. So we're gonna have that pretty much on the schedule. Also, hopefully get a conversation uploaded with Demetrius Salida of Salida Promotions. So talk about the thing there with Demetrius Salida having Franchon Cruz Dezern on that June 6th card coming up, as she's going to be fighting for the WBC and WBA super middleweight titles. So that's going to be something there. Part of that card, the Hall of Fame weekend card over in Verona, New York. So that's going to be Friday, June. Friday, June 6th or whatever it is, right? So, June 5th, right? So you're gonna have that, and then we're also going to talk about the thing there with Clarissa Shields and her upcoming bout July 26th, right? So that's going to be something there. You know what I mean? So that's mainly it, what we have for the Midweek Report. Big thanks for everyone that listening live. Like I said, share the stream. Catch more here on the Boxing Source YouTube channel. We're going to have as much as we can for you. And with that being said, I'm out. Peace.